Growing up, we all heard stories about the barbaric WW2 from our grandparents. However, watching the disaster unfold from afar does not even come close to being right in the middle of it. Even though most of the books based on WW2 do not cover the horror entirely, there are a few that come close to describing the nightmare with some harsh facts. Only the people who were a part of the Second World War and survived it can tell you the real deal. The rest of the world will either sugarcoat it or only present half of the picture. Whether it was due to political reasons or any other reason, authors have shied away from writing the truth about this touchy topic. However, there are a few who wrote candidly about what happened during WW2 and after it. Whether it is from the attacker's perspective or the victim's, in this video, you will find the best books that will provide you with factual knowledge about the Second World War. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and share. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Links to the books are given in the description below. Number 10. The Liberator by Alex Kershaw. From biographies to historical nonfiction, Alex Kershaw has provided readers with a lot of interesting books. This 57-year-old journalist is known for his candor, which you will find in the book we will be discussing now. The Liberator is an amazing read which is based on the true events of the Second World War, or to be more specific, about a specific commander of the war. Felix Sparks was the commander who led the only battalion that fought and stood against the troops of Hitler's army till the end. From 1943 to 1945, from the beaches of Italy to the mountains of France, Sparks and his soldiers fought against the constant attacks of the German army. Alex Kershaw has gone into quite a detail about the depravity of the German soldiers and the horror Sparks faced on the battlefield for nearly 2 years. Instead of using a sensationalizing tone of writing, the author has brought the truth to light in his signature candid way of writing. Number 9. The Splendid and the Vile by Erik Larson. Along with being a leading journalist in the USA, Erik Larson has also written quite a few nonfiction books that are the reason behind his fame. One of his best works is his take on the Second World War. The Splendid and the Vile is about Churchill and his regime over the Britons as a prime minister during WW2. The book begins with Churchill's takeover as a prime minister, which was right around the time the Nazis had invaded France. The Britons knew they were also on the attack list of the German army. But Churchill was confident that not only could they resist the Nazis' attack, but also win against them. But he needed one thing, the alliance of the American army. From his first day in office, the major goal of Churchill was to convince the American government to help them fight against the Nazis. The book covers the entire first year of Churchill's rule as a prime minister, and the interesting part is that Erik Larson has used old documents, letters, and diaries to bring the daily struggle of Winston Churchill to light. This book is an interesting read as it recounts the true events of the Second World War and the attack of the Nazis on the UK. Number 8. Band of Brothers by Stephen E. Ambrose. Being the biographer of the two presidents of the United States is not the only notable accomplishment of Stephen E. Ambrose. He has also contributed to the literature with his amazing books. Easy Company 506th Airborne Regiment was one of the many companies of soldiers that fought against the German army. Band of Brothers follows the journey of the men of this unit, with the book starting right from the time the unit was formed. The book then continues with the battles of the soldiers of this unit against the German army till the end of the battle. From soldiers dying due to the brutality of the Nazis to some freezing to death in the cold and harsh weather, this book shares the story of the entire Easy Company 506th Regiment. The information for this book comes from the interviews that Stephen had with the survivors of the unit and the letters and journals of the soldiers that were written during the war. Therefore, do not expect any sugarcoating, as this book shares the brutal times of the Second World War exactly as they were. Number 7. Stalingrad by Antony Beevor. Graduated from Winchester College, Antony Beevor is a well-known historian of the UK. After working with a historian of WW2, Antony gained more than enough knowledge about the events of the war to write his own books. As the name of the book indicates, Stalingrad is about the final battle of Stalingrad that happened between the Nazi army and the Russian army. In 1942, the Nazis laid siege to a city in Russia named Stalin. What started at the end of August went up to the beginning of February. During this siege of the Nazis, the Russian army fought against them, but their main goal was to hold the Nazis at that point, so they entrapped the great army of Hitler. The Battle of Stalingrad is known as the turning point of the Second World War, as well as the most brutal encounter between two armies that left more than 2 million civilians and soldiers dead. Antony Beevor interviewed the survivors of the Battle of Stalingrad. He also did his own research and found archives of the Soviets and the Germans, which then led to him compiling all that knowledge in this book. One of the main reasons this book is so famous is that it covers the struggles of the soldiers of both armies. Number 6. Inferno by Max Hastings. The books of Max Hastings have earned him a lot of prizes and fame over the years. But the beginning of his fame was when he worked as a foreign correspondent and covered 11 wars while working for BBC. What makes Inferno different than the rest of the books in this category is that Max did not only focus on the battleground where the two armies fought. He conducted research for more than 30 years, and in all these years, he compiled the perspective of individuals from every walk of life who witnessed the war. This helped him in uncovering many parts of the war that were overlooked or neglected by most historians. From the leadership of Churchill and his leading the British Army against the Nazis, the Soviet Union, and their conflict with Finland, to the brutal manslaughter by Hitler's army. Number 5. Hiroshima by John Hersey. American journalist John Hersey was also a great author and wrote many books in his life. However, what he is most famous for is the fact that he was among the first people to introduce new journalism to the field of journalism and writing. Hiroshima is one of the best-selling books of the author. The city of Hiroshima was destroyed within seconds on 6 August 1945, when an atomic bomb was dropped on the city by the American Army. John Hersey interviewed the survivors of the atomic attack on the city. His book Hiroshima shares the tale of the day of the attack and the months that followed after. He shared the stories of 6 survivors that included 2 women and 4 men, 2 of which were doctors and 2 were religious men. After the bomb was dropped and the fire was engulfing the entire city of Hiroshima, the survivors were trying to get to safety and save as many as they could. This book gives you a front row seat to the brutality that the people of Hiroshima faced during and after the atomic attack. Number 4. Code Talker by Chester Nez. Veteran of the Second World War, Chester Nez fought and survived the brutal WW2 himself. He served as a naval code talker that had to keep the transmission of the U.S. Army safe from the Japanese. He wrote a book in which he shared everything that he saw and remembers from the war. Code Talker is not any other book about the Second World War written by a historian. Instead, this book was written by an original naval code talker of WW2. In this book, Chester Nez has shared his entire life story and how he joined the military. But the focus of the book is on the 4 years of the Second World War when he served as one of the original 29 naval code talkers. As this book is written by a veteran of the war, it does not only give you a glimpse of the picture, but shows the entire picture of WW2. Number 3. A Higher Call by Adam Makos. The grandfathers of Adam Makos fought in the Second World War, which led to him writing many books and articles about it. However, the one that he is most famous for is the book that we will be sharing with you in this video. The story of A Higher Call is about 2 pilots fighting against each other, one from the American Army and one from the German Army. The American fighter plane was flown by a rookie, Charlie Brown, while the German fighter was in the hands of an ace pilot, Franz Stigler. Instead of shooting the already hit American fighter out of the sky, the German pilot helped him get out of the premises of Germany and reach England safely. In the eyes of Franz, the American plane was not a threat, and attacking them once they were already down was against his principles. When Charlie Brown reached the safety of the UK and narrated the tale of how he made it back safely, the story was swept under the rug by the government. It was brought to light more than 50 years later when Charlie Brown wrote a letter to the German newsletter and found Franz Stigler. The book follows the story of both pilots and is quite an interesting read. Number 2. The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by William L. Shirer. Famous for his CBS broadcasts during the beginning of the Second World War, William L. Shirer was also a famous journalist of his time, as well as a known historian. His most famous work is the book that we will talk about now. The book The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich was published in 1960 and earned William a lot of fame. But even after all those decades, this book is a great read. The Third Reich was another name for the Nazi state, which ruled for 12 years over the Western world. Once the rule of the Nazis was over, they were asked to surrender all of their official documentation and files. Those documents included records about the concentration camps of the Nazis, transcripts about conferences, the diaries of the officers, and lots of other paperwork about the 12-year rule of the Third Reich. This paperwork was read and sifted through by William, which took him more than 5 years. After those 5 years, he wrote every bit of knowledge about the battles of the Nazis, their attacks and siege of the Western world, and the ultimate surrender of the Third Reich in this book, making it one of the best WW2 books. Number 1. The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. Anne Frank was a 13-year-old Jewish girl who, along with her family, hid from the German army in Amsterdam during the Second World War. She documented her life during the German attack in a diary and died at the age of 15. The Diary of a Young Girl is one of the most famous books about the Second World War. The major reason it is so famous is that it documents the events of the war by a survivor of the war. Along with her family and friends, Anne Frank hid in her father's office building. The 2 years that Anne spent in the attic were documented in a diary which was discovered later on. This book is no ordinary one that contained the documentation of a historian or a journalist, but it is the writings of a young girl who was right in the middle of the brutalities of the Second World War. After spending nearly 2 years in hiding, the family was discovered by the Nazis, who then killed them all. Everything that we have heard about the Second World War does not even come close to the viciousness of that brutal war. However, the books that I just recommended deliver a clear picture of the war instead of the fogged one the media shows. So pick any one of the 10 and I assure you, the horrors that you will find in the book will keep you awake all night. Video helps you find the next book you are going to read, then like and share this video. Let me know in comment section on what type of books I should cover in my next video. Also, if you read one of the books mentioned in this video, share your review or thoughts with us. Subscribe this channel for more such awesome videos. Thanks for watching.